This is a retelling of the past, drawn from the logs, journals and scattered notes of sailors who braved the age of exploration. What you will hear is a fiction of records, a weaving of history and imagination, meant to bring their world to life. None who walk the earth today can testify to these words. Their voices, once carried by salt and wind, return across centuries. Together, we step aboard their decks to see as they saw and sail as they sailed. The last faint shadow of Europe disappeared behind us. No spire of church, no rugged coastline, not even a line of smoke on the horizon. Endless water and borderless sky upon us. For many it was the first time the world had seemed so empty. Spain, with its crowded harbours and narrow streets, was gone. The safety of home was gone. Now we were specks upon an endless plain of blue. 5 small ships upon a sea that dwarfed even imagination. At first, the air was crisp, the wind steady, and spirits remained high. The men sang at their work, hauling ropes, setting sails. The sea seemed generous. Fish darted at the surface, silver flashes beneath the waves. Dolphins leapt at our bows, as if guiding us forward. Seabirds wheeled overhead, still a sign of land not far behind. But as days stretched into weeks, the patterns of life aboard changed. Time only abide by the ring of ship's bell, abandoning the allegiances to the sun or the seasons. Every 4 hours it rang, a hollow bronze heartbeat that marked the passing of watches. Log of a sailor. Day 11. The bell rings, and the sea does not change. 4 hours on the ropes, then 4 hours to close my eyes. When I wake, I do not know if I have dreamt, or if the world has swallowed the day. I think often of Seville. I wonder if my wife still lights a candle at Vespers. The sea takes all measure of time away. Men slept where they could, hammocks swaying with the roll of the ship, or curled on coils of rope. Dreams were short, shallow, disturbed by the groan of timbers and the crash of waves. Meals were taken without ceremony. A biscuit of hard tack cracked against the edge of the table or softened in brine. A strip of salted meat, tough and sour. A mug of water or thin wine carried from casks already beginning to spoil. Weevils crawled in the biscuits, but who cares? They were swallowed as part of the meal. Between meals and watches, sailors busied themselves with endless maintenance. Ropes frayed and had to be spliced. Sails wore thin and needed patching. Tar was heated in buckets and smeared along seams in the deck to keep the sea from seeping in. The ship itself was alive, demanding care. Care for it, and it will never betray you. When the day's work was done, the men gathered in corners of the deck to talk, gamble and sing. Always singing, weren't they? Dice made of bone clattered against wood. Voices rose in shanties, some merry, some mournful, always rough but strong. Stories too were shared. Stories of wives and children left behind. Stories of wars fought, of ports visited, of taverns where the ale never ran dry. But most often, the stories were of the sea. One man said, noted in this log, "Tonight, Pedro swore he saw something move beneath the ship, a shadow that did not rise like a wave but glided like a beast. We laughed at him, yet when the moon sank low, I too stared into the water and thought I saw eyes looking back. Strange. The veteran spoke of serpents as long as the ship itself, whales with jaws wide enough to swallow a man whole, phantom ships crewed by the drowned that sailed forever beneath the moonlight. The younger sailors laughed at first, but at night, when the decks quieted and the sky darkened, those same young men would peer into the black waters and imagine shapes stirring just beneath the surface. And the sky above gave no comfort. On land, one might look up and see a few stars, but on the open Atlantic, far from the smoke of cities, the heavens blazed with thousands upon thousands of lights. The constellations seemed alive, shifting with the roll of the ship. Magellan and his pilots studied those stars with instruments, cross-staffs, astrolabes, tools that seemed to the common sailor like relics of sorcery. They measured angles, muttered figures, marked charts. The sailors whispered, "How can a man truly know where he is when the world itself has no end?" The Atlantic is not always rage and thunder. For many days the fleet sails through a strange stillness. The sea lies flat and glassy like a mirror reflecting sky. Sails hang limp left, useless. The men sweat beneath a merciless sun. The air is heavy and stifling. Every breath feels thick as though the ocean itself presses down upon their lungs. No wind to move and no current to guide them. The ship's drifting caught in the doldrums. The men grow restless. With no work to steady their minds, they turn inward. They gamble with dice carved from bone, whisper tales of demons beneath the water, argue over scraps of food. Some mutter that the sea has trapped them, that the ocean is not water but a prison of glass. The officers pace tensely. They know what comes after stillness. Day 24. The air grows strange. Clouds pile high, black and heavy. The horizon burns with flashes of light, though no thunder reaches us yet. The men speak of it as a curtain, as though beyond it waits a world we're not meant to enter. I cannot calm them. Truth be told, I am not calm myself, noted in the log. It begins at night. The first gust comes out of sudden, a slap of wind that tears through the stillness. The sails snap, ropes whip, lanterns swing wildly. This sea rises as though some hand beneath pushes it upward. Then comes the rain, a wall of it hammering, soaking every man to the bone. Lightning tears across the sky, blinding white, followed by thunder that rolls so deep it feels like the sea itself is splitting open. The ships are tossed like toys. Waves rise higher than masts, crashing down with such force the decks shudder and split. Men are thrown to the planks, clutching for anything solid. Buckets fly, crates smash, ropes whip like serpents. The cry goes up, "Reef the sails! Reef the sails!" Crew scramble up the rigging and clinging to wet ropes with their fingers being numb. Bodies flung by the wind, one misstep and the sea swallows them whole. Lightning reveals their faces, wide-eyed, teeth clenched. as they fight canvas that thrashes like a living beast. The boatswain's whistle pierces the storm and shrill above the roar. Orders barked, half heard, half lost. Men pull at ropes, hauling at water pumps, heaving at the broken timbers. One sailor is clutching the rail and whispers into the wind, "The sea wants us. It will not let us pass." Another shouts back, half crazed, "No, the sea is only testing us. If we live, we are chosen." But their words vanish in thunder and wave. Inevitably, the storm takes its due. A mast cracks, splintering with a sound like cannon fire. It topples and crushing two men where they stand. Another is swept overboard, arms flailing, voice lost in wind. A lantern shatters, the fire licking briefly at soaked wood before snuffed by rain. Magellan does not leave the deck. Rain lashes his face, wind howls around him, but he stands unmoving at the helm. His hand grips the wheel so tightly that his knuckles started to bleed. Some say they see no fear in him. Others say they see no man at all, only iron will. The men draw strength from his presence, even as the storm tries to tear them apart. Such figure. "So long as he stands," whispers one sailor, "so long as he stands, perhaps we shall live." Day 26. I write by the dim glow of a soaked lantern, my hand trembling as the ship groans. The sea rages without end. The deck is awash, the sails in tatters. We pray, each in our own way. I fear when dawn comes, fewer of us will answer. And so the morning comes, the raging storm has passed. The sea lies calmer now. Broken spars drift like bones upon the waves. Men walk the deck in silence. Faces hollow, eyes bloodshot. They count the missing. They mend what can be mended. They bury the dead in the only way the sea allows. Bodies are wrapped in sailcloth stitched with heavy stones. Prayers are whispered. Latin, Spanish, Portuguese, sometimes only murmured words. Then, one by one, the bodies are slid over the side. The ocean accepts them without ceremony. No trace remains but ripples. That night the crew speak in hushed voices. "We were not meant to cross," says one. "The ocean warns us," says another. "No," replies a third. "The storm is proof we are close, else why would the sea fight us so?" They argue until silence falls, but none truly believe their own words. The storm has taken more than lives. Barrels of food split, soaked and ruined. Freshwater casks leak. Salt pork rots faster in the damp. Weevils crawl thick through biscuit stores. Hunger gnaws at the men. They chew mouldy bread, drink brackish water and swallow sickness. Skin grows pale, lips crack and the gums bleed. The joints ache, some teeth loosen and fall. The surgeon, with trembling hands, can only offer prayers and a little vinegar. As if the sea has not tested them enough, it shows them wonders, or terrors. On one moonless night, the water glows with a pale green light. The ship's wake shimmers like liquid fire. Fish dart below, glowing shapes beneath the surface and vanishing as quickly as they appear. The men gape and whispering. Some call it the sea's blessing, like a guide through the dark. Others mutter of spirits rising from the deep. One man insists he saw faces in the glow, pale, watching and drifting just beneath the waterline. Day 31. We live still, though weaker. Each sunrise is a miracle. Each wave that does not rise to drown us feels like mercy. The ocean has no end, yet we sail onward, as if drawn by fate. I no longer know whether to call this voyage God's work or man's folly. Then, at last, the signs of change emerged. The wind shifts, and steady carrying them westward. Birds appear, first a gull, then another circling the masts, crying in voices. The feeling of strange after so many weeks of silence. Men rush to the rails, all eyes scanning the horizon. They whisper of land. They taste hope on their tongues, as though it were food. Magellan, being silent all this time, finally speaks. Hold fast. The sea does not end here. Beyond this horizon lies what no man of Europe has seen. Hold fast, and history itself will bear your names. The men waked cries from the masthead, saying there's land within sights. The word sweeps the ship like fire through dry grass. Sailors scramble to the rails with their eyes straining. At first they see only haze, a low blur at the edge of sea and sky. But as the hours pass, the shape sharpens. A coastline, green and rising, stretching beyond sight. For weeks they have known nothing but water. Now the mere outline of trees brings tears to hardened faces. Some fall to their knees in prayer. Others laugh, wild and broken, as though the sight itself has saved them from death. For weeks they have known nothing but water. Now the mere outline of trees brings tears to hardened faces. Some fall to their knees in prayer. Others laugh, wild and broken, as though the sight itself has saved them from death. The ships creep closer. The shoreline unfurls. Beaches pale as bone, rivers winding inland, forest dense with towering trees. The air changes. There's no longer salted dryness, but heavy with scent of flowers sweet, earth damp, resin sharp from unseen plants. Birds wheeling overhead with their bright feathered, shrieking in voices unlike any heard in Iberia. Fish leap from the surf and silvers flashing in sunlight. To the men it feels like a dream, a place painted by God's own hand, untouched by sorrow or famine. As the fleet anchors near a broad bay, movement stirs along the shore. Figures emerge, tall, dark-skinned, painted in colours of earth and ash. They carry spears, though not raised in threat. Their hair is long, their bodies adorned with feathers and beads. The sailors watched and gripped by awe and unease. One whispers, "Are they men or spirits of this place?" Another replies, "If they bleed, they are men. If they vanish in smoke, then we shall know otherwise." Gifts are offered from the ships, beads, bells, small mirrors. In turn, the people of the shore offer fruit, fish, roots unknown to European eyes. The exchange is tentative, gestures and smiles in place of words. Soon, Magellan permits a landing. The men step upon the strange sand, kneel, and cross themselves. To them, this is holy ground, a new chapter of creation itself. The locals gather with curiosity rather than malice. Fires are lit, food is shared, roasted fish, fruits that burst with sweet juices, roots that fill the stomach more kindly than mouldy biscuit. Some mentioned of the native women offering something more delicate for an exchange, such as the nature of men and women's needs. The sailors eat until they ache, marvelling at flavours they cannot name. Some weep with gratitude, others gorge as though afraid the bounty will vanish. Music rises, wooden flutes and hollow drums beating. The rhythm is wild, alive, unlike the solemn chants of Europe. The sailors cannot help but clap, laugh, and dance. For one night, the sea's torment is forgotten. Day 38. We feast with the people of this new land. They are generous beyond measure, though I cannot read their hearts. Some of our men stare too long at their women. Some whisper of gold in the rivers. I fear hunger of another kind will soon awaken in them. Not all is innocent wonder. Rumours started to ripple through the crew. Some claim they saw huts filled with ornaments of yellow metal. Others insist the locals hide treasures inland. Greed sharpens eyes, loosens tongues. Magellan, composed as ever, warns restraint. Yet he too listens closely when talk of rivers glimmering with gold drifts among the sailors. His mission is survival. Yes, but hard to ignore the glimpse of it. The first blood comes not from malice, but from confusion. A sailor said was drunk on palm wine snatches an ornament from a local child. The act is small, thoughtless, but it sparks fury. Spears rise ready to be defending their people. For a breath, the air trembles on the edge of violence. Magellan himself strides between them, raising his hands, projected calmness and leadership. He forces the sailor to return the trinket, to kneel in apology. Slowly, anger cools. The spears lowered. Some locals in the back murmured words that, though unintelligible to European ears, it carried a sharp unpleasantness. Enough to stir unease it did. And suddenly, all welcomes began to expire. The moment passes, but the memory lingers. That night, sailors whisper as flames crackle. These people are not like us. They will turn if we show weakness. No, it is we who must beware. Their numbers are many. If they wished us dead, we would already be so. But the land could feed us, save us. Is that not God's sign? None sleep easily. Small parties split to venture inland. They tread paths through towering trees and roots knotted like serpents. The air was buzzing with insects. They see rivers wide and slow, and it's rich with fish. They hear calls of beasts unseen. The distant roars struck panic within these Europeans' chest. Some return with baskets of fruit, others with stories of villages deep in the forest. One claims to have seen gold dust in a stream, talks of gold again. Another insists he saw giants, men twice the height of any Spaniard. The truth is unclear, blurred by awe, fear, and imagination. Day 41. This land is a dream and a danger. The forest tempts us with food and riches, yet swallows us whole when we wander too far. Already 2 men are missing. The locals shrug when we ask of them, as though they never existed. I begin to wonder if the sea was kinder. Weeks pass. The ships are repaired with new timber, the sails patched, water casks filled from fresh springs. The men grow stronger on this land's bounty, yet Magellan knows they cannot linger. The Atlantic has been crossed, but the true passage, the strait that pierces to the other side of the world, still lies ahead. He gathers his officers by firelight. Their voices are hushed. heavy with the weight of choice. "We could remain," says one. "This land is rich and the people pliable. Why tempt fate with more sea?" "No," replies Magellan. "We are not sent to settle. We are sent to find a way to the Spice Islands. To turn back now is to undo all we have endured." Silence follows. The officers nod reluctantly. The voyage must continue. At dawn the sails are raised once more. The locals gather on the beach, watching silently as the ships drift away. Some wave, others stand still. Those silent stances told the sailors what they want utters in words. "You are not welcomed." The sailors feel a pang of loss, for the comfort of solid earth, for the hospitality of strangers, for the sweetness of fruit and the warmth of firelight. But as the coastline fades into haze, a new fire stirs in their hearts. They have touched land unknown to their homeland. They have tasted survival where death seemed certain. If such wonders exist here, what might await farther west? The ships drifted steadily along the coast, sails fat with trade winds. Each dawn brought warmth, and each dusk brought sky painted in crimson flame. The men once broken by hunger, now moved with vigour. Salt no longer stung their throats. Fruit and fish gave them strength. The Brazilian coast unfolded like an endless scroll. Jungles dense with shadow, rivers like silver snakes, bays teeming with birds that rose in clouds. Some sailors whispered that Eden itself lay here, a paradise untouched. Others muttered that such beauty was but a mask concealing teeth of the wild. Day 53. The coast runs ever south, shores rich in timber, beasts strange to the eye, fish beyond counting. The men's spirits rise, though I sense in them a restlessness. The farther we sail, the harsher the winds. Already nights grow cooler. What waits in the far south? None can say. From time to time the fleet anchored in sheltered coves. Ashore they found tribes unlike those of the first landfall, taller, sterner, their bodies painted with red clay, their huts standing upon stilts above marsh and tide. The exchanges was cautious. The gifts of beads and bells were received, but the eyes of the shore folk were colder, as though they weighed the strangers not as guests but as riddles. Food was traded still, smoked fish, game from the forest, tubers roasted in coals. Yet at night, the watchmen swore they saw figures shadowing the campfires, just standing still and watching. Sailors' eyes could be deceiving their mind, some says. One morning a small exploring party failed to return. They'd gone inland seeking fruit, carrying only knives and grits. Hours stretched to a day to 2 days. At last remains were found. Obvious hints pointed to their own. Scraps of cloth, broken blades and bloodstains upon the grass. The shore folk denied knowledge, speaking words the Spaniards could not pierce. Some believed them, others accused them. Fear sharpened suspicion like a whetstone. Magellan ordered no reprisal. He spoke of discipline, of avoiding wrath that might burn the fragile bridge of peace. Yet many sailors muttered in dark corners, saying the captain feared too much, holding back vengeance. Such short-sighted views could spell their own demise in a faraway land, Magellan acknowledged this. Day 59. We have lost 3 men. The land gives, but it also takes. I confess unease gnaws at me. The forest swallows sound. The faces of the tribes hold secrets. I pray we move on swiftly, lest the earth itself claim us all. As weeks passed and the ships pressed farther south, the sun's warmth began to fade. The nights grew sharp with chill, and the men wrapped themselves in cloaks, drawing close to braziers for comfort. Breath misted in the morning air. The once constant song of cicadas and parrots thinned until silence reigned, broken only by wind. The coast itself changed. The lush jungles gave way to plains vast and empty, grass bending in waves beneath the wind. Herds of beasts moved upon those plains, heavy and strange, their humps high, their legs slender. To the sailors they seemed half horse, half camel, beasts of a dream. Here people are seldom seen. When fire smoke rose, the men approached with care. The folk they met were unlike any before, wrapped in skins, faces painted in ash, towering tall, their voices deep as drums. The sailors gasped at their stature. Some swore the men stood 2 heads taller than any Spaniard. Others laughed, claiming drink and fear made giants of common men. Yet the word spread. Patagonies, giants of the south. The strangers showed little fear. They received gifts with grins, offered meat of the beasts that roamed the plains, and watched the Spaniards' ships with awe. To the crew, they seemed both childlike in wonder and ancient in bearing. Day 68. We have entered lands colder than I imagined. Here dwell people of mighty height, their footprints deep in the sand. Some call them giants. I will not deny their stature, yet I see in them men, no more monstrous than we. Still tales will grow from this place, carried on waves like seeds on wind. While wonder stirred, another current ran through the fleet, darker, heavier. The farther south they sailed, the more the cold bit at bone, the more the winds howled. Provisions, though renewed, thinned again. Repairs wore thin on masts battered by storm, and always Magellan pressed onward. Some officers began to murmur, "Why follow this Portuguese so blindly? Why sail to the world's edge when riches already lay behind them? They were Spaniards, sworn to Spain, not to one man's dream." Among the common sailors whispers spread like rot. The captain seeks death. He would drive us to the world's end for pride alone. Then came the storm. The sky blackened in an hour, clouds rolling like beasts. Wind shrieked, tearing at sails, snapping ropes. Waves rose, walls of water crashing down, sweeping men across decks. One ship nearly broke upon the rocks, saved only by desperate anchors dropped in roaring surf. Another lost her mainmast, splintered by the gale. When at last the tempest passed, the fleet limped into a wide bay, battered and weary. The men collapsed upon the decks, trembling, kissing wood and whispering prayers. Day 74. A storm nearly tore us apart. By God's mercy we endure. Yet the fleet is shaken. Men whisper openly of turning back. I fear their words are seeds of something darker. Even the officers cast long glances at Magellan, their loyalty fraying like old rope. It was here where the cold deepened. Frost rimed the decks in mourning. Fires burned in iron pots below. Smoke thick in the hold. The rations shrank. Men's bellies groaned. The bay gave fish, but the sea grew cruel. The waves were monstrous and the wind slicing. Hunting inland yielded meat, but there's only little warmth. The Patagonians showed them the shelters of skin and bone, how the fires dug into earth. Yet the sailors struggled. They are foreign to such ways. Magellan declared they would overwinter here to repair the ships, and we pressed south when the spring returned. To many souls it felt like a sentence. And so, as the winds howled and the days shortened, another storm brewing among the fleet. Officers gathered in secret, and they started muttering of betrayal, of folly. They spoke of seizing ships and returning to Spain, leaving Magellan to his doom. Among the sailors, the talk of mutiny spread like frost over water. Some resisted and plead loyalty still to their captain, inspired by his resolve. The others burned with anger, unwilling to freeze in a land they starting to curse. It is April now, the year 1520, and we have anchored in a place so far south that it feels more dream than earth. The captain calls it the Bay of San Julián. To us, it is the mouth of the world's grave. The ink smudges as I write, for the cold stiffens even the flow of words. The land rises in cliffs, sharp and barren. The wind shrieks as if it's through 1,000 of unseen mouths. No fruit, no grain, no shelter greets us. Only dust, rock, and the promise of a long winter. The men mutter that we've left paradise behind. Brazil's green coast's now a memory, traded for this wasteland of bone and frost. We begin our routines, for discipline is the only rope that keeps a sailor's mind from slipping into the madness. Each morning I hear the whistle of the boatswain, calling men to mend torn rigging, to seal leaks, and to fetch what driftwood can be found. The tide carries little here but kelp, mudflats, and useless rocks. Our rations are salt meat and hard biscuits. The biscuit is no bread but a stone in the stomach, alive with worms that writhe when broken. Some men shut their eyes and chew, others curse as they spit the insects out. Yet hunger teaches you lots of valuable lessons. And so the worms are swallowed with the bread. At night, the cold enters the bones. We huddle near small fires built from scrub and drift. Around those fires the men speak in low voices, their breath turning white. Stories rise with the sparks, tales of spirits who guard the cliffs, of the southern lights that glow like ghostly banners, and the giants that stalk the plain. Sounds like fantasies to kill the time. They call this place the end of the world. I wonder if they are right. It was Easter when the storm within broke its bounds. 3 of the 5 captains, nobles of Castile, seized their ships. They declared Magellan unfit, a tyrant, a madman leading good men to ruin. I remember the sound, the clash of steel as loyal sailors resisted, the shouting across decks, the thud of boots as men took up arms. For a night and a day the fleet was torn in half. Cannons were run out, aimed not at the sea, but at our own. Brothers stood ready to fire upon brothers. I, your humble scribe, shook with fear as I wrote. Never did I think that the enemy would be found not on foreign shores, but here among our own decks. The bay rang with voices of defiance, prayers, and the groaning of timbers as ships strained at their anchors like caged beasts. But the Captain General did not break. He was iron, colder than the sea. With cunning he struck. In the night he sent loyal men across the water in small boats, silent as shadows. Chains rattled, steel flashed, and by dawn the mutineers were undone. One captain was dragged before the crew. His head fell beneath the blade, and the sea drank his blood. Others were marooned upon the barren shore, left to the mercy of a rock and wind. The rest, beaten but spared, bent their knees once more. I wrote then, "This sea is cold, but colder still is command. Obedience is won not by love, but by fear and fate." Now the fleet lies quiet again, but it is not the quiet of peace. It is the silence of men who fear both the sea and their master. We obey, for there is no choice but forward. The past is locked behind us, and the way home closed by blood. Winter deepens, the giants wander the plains, the wind howls like lost souls, and the southern lights blaze above as if heaven itself watches in judgment. But Magellan's eyes remain fixed to the horizon. Beyond this place lies a strait, he swears, a passage through to another ocean, and beyond that ocean the Indies and glory. If you've journeyed this far with us across the Atlantic and into the icy bay of San Julián, I invite you to stay with us as we continue into the next journeys. Subscribe, leave a word below in the comments and like if you truly enjoy this episode.